Oh no! We've been digitally inserted into one of our old shows! This week, we're talking about Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Episode 6, Trials and Tribble-ations!
Nailed it.
What's up, everybody? Now we can take it away. Welcome to Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. Today, of course, we've been waiting for it for years. I have had this one circled on my calendar ever since we started this series. We're going to talk about Trials and Tribble-ations. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. A few friends, patrons, and compatriots have said all along that this was one to keep looking at, and I knew there was a reason that over on patreon.com/KNM we watched the original series, The Trouble with Tribbles, correct?
Yeah, but that was utterly coincidental. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm so glad. I actually haven't thought about yet whether this episode would be fun without having seen that. I'm sure it would have been fun, but man, so many fun little Easter eggs and fan service. What a fun week we have ahead of us.
So much fun. Yeah, no, it was...
Keith, was that a real show from the top, from the intro? Was that something we actually did?
You mean the Out of Practice podcast, where we did this exact same show, but about David E. Kelley's award-winning series, The Practice?
All 8 seasons?
All 8 seasons, even the bad ones.
That seems like an absolute catastrophic waste of time and life.
I mean, it would only be a catastrophic waste of time if nobody watched or listened, Mike. Mission accomplished.
Oh, man, it was fun though. But yet, Keith, did we still cry at the finale?
We sure as
for
heck
3 hours.
It was a 3-hour finale, without a doubt. Yeah, no, it was.
Now, Keith, one more question:
yeah.
Did we cry for 3 hours? And did I have a mustache?
You definitely had a mustache for some, and guy liner and black fingernails for some of that. We went through the entire pandemic on that show, so you can actually watch. Yeah. You can listen to us experience the pandemic in real time. It's actually pretty interesting. So
yeah, we actually got 2 comments on episodes of it this week. I had to field, and I was like, wow, congratulations, one guy who's watching.
Hey, well, there it is. It was really fun. Go check it out.
It was a blast.
It's our original series. We also should have been canceled, but hopefully the reruns will get us renewed.
Oh, the reboot's going to be something crazy.
The reboot's going to be so fun. But today we cannot continue talking about that because we have so much. This is going to be a packed episode. So we have a lot. In fact, we even have a mailbag, a physical mail.
Yeah, a crossover with one of our other shows.
Speaking of crossovers, I come here packed with the Playmates figures they did for this episode. So much fun. I've got JD's evil Tribble, just too far for me to reach because the cat knocked it off, so it's Charlie's fault. But before we do any of that, we have to close the book on last week's episode, The Assignment.
I think Keith should maybe close some programs he maybe has running on his computer also.
You know,
if he's got anything like a Photoshop, is there a Photoshop? Is there a Sibelius?
No, I closed Photoshop. I closed Sibelius. I closed Pro Tools. That would be the one that
is the hamster that runs your Wi-Fi running?
No, my Wi-Fi's great. Well, I'm not in Vermont anymore.
See, Salty Keith this is not the episode for Salty Keith.
It's not the episode for Salty Keith.
Yeah, we need Sweet Keith. We get some butter, butter that biscuit, baby, put it in the oven. I don't know what's happening.
Butter that biscuit, baby, was the phrase he used that he thought would calm me down and make me happier.
Well, Keith, it is what you put on your Tinder profile. It is your quote under your profile picture is "butter that biscuit, baby."
It puts the butter on the biscuit, or it gets the hose. Okay, so I think before we get into any other Tribble-ations, let us talk about last week's episode, The Assignment, which the patrons get their comments read. That's how we work here. And they can join at patreon.com/K&M. Spell out that and, A-N-D.
It's fun.
It's super fun. You can also get your comment read if you leave a super thanks right here on the YouTubes. Now, JD has proven without a shadow of a doubt that button is mysteriously sometimes not there. Perhaps Mysterious Ann is taking it. But it's weird that it's inconsistently there. YouTube apparently does not like money because they take a good portion of it. But it doesn't matter because our patrons get their comments read, starting, again, talking about the assignment, with our good friend Joshua Cronin, who says, wow, I guess I'm the odd man out on this one. I love the Keiko character, and I think Rosalind is a fantastic actress, but this episode is hokey to me. I didn't believe it as a teen, and I still don't believe it now. Your podcast review brought up some good points, so I'll give it 5 more than I would have. But 75 self-stealing stem bolts for me, we're worth 5 points, 5 stem bolts just here for this show. I think Paramount should be paying us.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you,
sure.
the stem bolt investment that we're making here on the show. Jason Moe says, whoa, the podcast Wraith, that's funny, who possessed Mike during the bumper was a real jerk. Unlike a few recent episodes, this one that's actually quite a bit better than I remembered. It's not one that I rewatch often, just because Possessed Keiko is so dang cruel and diabolical, but it's definitely a riveting story to watch unfold. As I mentioned during the Patreon watch-along, patreon.com/KNM, this episode would have hit even harder if Keiko was still pregnant during these events. Ooh, good point. Would I go so far as to grant it 95 stem bolts? No. But to be fair, Mike was under the influence of both the podcast Wraith and his own unholy lust for Keiko. I award 87 stem bolts indeed. Yeah.
Jen did ask that somebody warn her if Mike's in a Keiko mood before she watches the watch along. And I was like, that's fair. That's a fair.
I thought you meant warn Rosalind, which we also should probably do.
There should be emails being sent instantly to multiple folks.
We could make that happen, but just like out of the blue, just a warning. There is one Deep Space Nine review show out there where one of the co-hosts is basically humping his monitor every time you're on the screen.
Come on, I'm pretty respectful, I'd say.
But still humping the monitor, just doing it in a respectful way.
Yeah, with consent.
You're buying at dinner first. Okay, so YouTube viewer says, I spewed a lot of commentary on your Patreon page. Check it out. You know where. So I won't retype it here. I will add a point about your discussion about Odo showing hubris as he confronted O'Brien. Odo is very different from the Founders, but I would say that the core weakness of the Founders is their hubris, and Odo has a bit of it. It seems to be a species trait. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I give the episodes 95 stem bolts, and I give Rosalind Chow 100 stem bolts. You have to warn you about you too, everybody. I mean, let's face it, who isn't? This isn't a filler episode because the Paw Wraiths represent a new faction among the Klingons, Ferengi, Maquis, Dominion, Cardassians, etc. Keith wrote, Keiko is possessed, O'Brien has to do engineering, and Nog saves the day. I sure did in the description.
You've made it when your typos get called out.
Get correct. I think there are multiple people who did help me with that. Mike is really excited. Rom saved the day, not dog. Not Nog.
Nor dog.
Not Nog, nor dog. Though arguably, Rom found his confidence because of Nog. YouTube viewer, you helped me. You actually justified my typo. I like it. I like it very much. JD comes in and says, threat made to keep the show an hour. Me, or otherwise Mike dies. Me looking at the time counter at 1 hour and 28 minutes. Well, I guess Mike is dead. For some reason, I don't have the super thanks button. Weird. I need to find me some sexy Halloween costume pics from back in the day. Yes. Keith needs to help write new music for the Macarena. Oh, yeah.
The cat.
Have done that. Oh, what's the cat doing now?
All kinds of mischief.
So reading about your Mr. and Mrs. Smith from the 90s, it would certainly could be seen as inspiration for the Pitt Jolie film. Shall we start referring to Jillian as the past Nagus?
Probably not.
Probably not. I'm not sure how she would, but she doesn't know anything about Star Trek, so maybe it's a good thing.
I would. I mean, I don't know Jillian as well as you, but I would, from what I know, I would say she probably doesn't want to be referred to as anything.
She'd probably prefer not to be referred to in any way, shape, or form.
At all.
At all. I think that's probably the sanest reaction to anyone referring.
That's very fair.
I mean, we're definitely going to get a C&D from Rosalind, so there's that.
I got a text from Jillian this week, which I would love. I love hearing from her.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's right. She knows the guy who was going to play Jinx.
No, my PSM.
Your PSM, but I think she also knows the guy who replaced me as Jinx.
Oh, that's funny.
I know somebody who knows him. I forget. Anyway, JD continues. Bashir wasn't. Mike and I just need to talk more offline. Bashir, it's not like we don't text 500 times a week.
It's true.
Bashir was important for this episode, but Worf only appears for one scene. No, Keiko has a gun to her head the whole time. That's true. Mike's like, I don't care if you're a demon. I'm from Jersey. There's the fact that Mike has always been associated with that Miles has always been associated with engineering, whether from his days in tactical, his time as a pilot, or when he was transporter ops. But there's no reason for him to think about biology science of the wormhole aliens. O'Brien is a gears and doodads guy. Rom obviously has taken time to read up on the science of the wormhole aliens, allowing him to put two and two together, whereas O'Brien can't. It's not that he lacked knowledge, it's that there's no reason for him to have had that information. That's a very good point.
I like it, but I like mine better.
Fair enough. The semi-plot hole here might be explaining why Rom understands the corporeal nature of the wormhole aliens so well. Not to say he shouldn't. I am one of those weirdos that reads a lot and knows a lot of weird things that I never use in everyday life, but can suddenly pull out and use when no one expects it. So maybe Rom and I have that in common. I feel like Rom is the guy.
Yes.
I think he's a very curious guy.
I think Rom would be great on Jeopardy.
Rom would be great on Jeopardy. Absolutely. Plus, Lita's been telling Rom about the cost of morons and the Pawroth. Oh, cost of morans. The cost of morons. That's funny.
The cost of morons is a great name for a band.
I mean, what is the cost of these two morons? That's my question.
As low as $1 over at patreon.com/KNN.
All right. So JD comes in. I think we got a little salty JD here. Challenge for you two. Keith does an entire episode without saying interesting.
No way.
And Mike can't say long story short. Bet it gets the episode under an hour then.
Hey,
impossible.
You know, hard to take offense when it's on the nose.
I mean, it's 100% true, but those are our filler phrases when we don't know what to say. Our brain needs a little time to catch up. It was buffering. So when my brain is buffering, I say, interesting. That's
actually, you know what I would like to do? For next week, Keith, here's what I promise you. Because DaVinci Resolve, which is the program I use to edit our stuff down, has a great new transcription feature. It's pretty insane how good the AI transcription is. And you can then edit with keywords, so I can jump to every time you say interesting. So I can actually get a keyword count. And let us know like an average. Although this week, it's going to be in your head now, so it probably won't happen. But
well, I tell you what, Mike, I don't know if it would be successful, but I would certainly find it fun to know.
Of interest.
JD finishes. I don't know that I can rank this one terribly high, but it's super memorable. Gonna say 91 self-selling stem bolts. Can't hurt to be free. I beg to differ. Yeah, that's true. Well, R.I.P. Mike. Wow.
Because somebody...
Gettysburg. Wow.
He said wow because JD, if nothing else, listens to the very end of the podcast, because I sometimes I'll sneak in a little Easter egg at the very, very end, and I did this last week. So I
don't. What did you say?
Well, I put in that clip of the watch along where I said some choice things, and you can just see in the chat, it's just everybody going wow, 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 wow.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I don't watch our show. All right, Montgomery Scott.
Welcome.
Says 88 stem bolts. This episode had no business being this good. The time clock episodes usually don't work this well. I also love the rum parts. Harry Pothead says, he points to a clip of us saying, people have got to be sick of our nonsense. And he says, no bullshit at all. There aren't very many Deep Space Nine podcasts or YouTube shows, but there are some. I can go to other places to get Deep Space Nine fan stuff. I am here for Keith and Mike.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that comment made my week.
Me too. I believe I responded in kind.
Yeah, that 100% made my week. Kevin Miles gives this episode 95 self-sealing stem bolts, and we finish with Mysterious Anne, who says, Mr. Mysterious and I have been watching through all the episodes of Poirot, starring David Suchet, and I wonder if Agatha Christie invented or perfected the trope of the confrontational detective. I know it's one of the reasons my mom can't stand a lot of the shows I enjoy, like Poker Face, for a recent example. Great show. Because she gets annoyed seeing the detective repeatedly putting themselves in danger by confronting dangerous people without backup president. It's definitely a classic mystery trope, though, and I think Odo works well in this episode, both as an homage to that style and on the practical level others have noted. He's still getting used to being solid and more vulnerable. That is fantastic. Okay, so we are going to do something fun and bonusy because we both got packages from our good friend Colin Dagan, who incredibly has generously sent us many things in the past. Always super exciting to get this in the mail. I found out when I got back from Vermont, here sitting on my table was this amazing package covered with Star Trek stickers.
That's cool.
It fills me with joy. I don't know what's in it yet, but I have pulled out this letter. You also have one. Looks like you also got a letter. You go first.
Okay.
And let's find out what happened, because this is related to Tribbles, my friend.
Mike, by the time you've received this, you will undoubtedly have seen and reviewed Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Trials and Tribble-ations. I hope you enjoyed watching the episode for the first time. Spoiler alert, I did.
Doing it right here this minute.
Since you are working on your own Star Trek action figure collection, I thought you would enjoy some choking hazard accessories. I'm going to pull it out right now and show it. Tribbles!
Oh my god, that's fantastic.
These were made from art supplies I purchased from a local craft store. And
wait, did you make those Tribbles, Colin?
Hold on, now we gotta see, right? I gotta
You
pop
made them
open.
from art supplies?
Yep. Yeah, they're little puff balls.
They're
cute.
really delicious if you spread them on toast.
I lost one already. They're gonna spread.
My
Multicolors and sizes.
You need to keep the structural integrity of that jar, otherwise the cats will be pooping Tribbles for the rest of time.
Look at that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right. It's really rad. So I'm gonna pull the box over here. I'm gonna put these down. And these were made from art supplies I purchased from a local craft store and are just perfect for the 5-inch or even 3.75-inch action figures. Keith, I'm actually gonna pour a couple of these into my bell jar that holds my CRM original Mike figure.
Oh.
That I haven't shown yet because I have to get you yours.
Yes.
In addition, I'm running out of space. I'm going to save that for a second. Blah, 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 blah. So I thought this would be appropriate. As bonuses, I included some DS9 stickers and also some cases, Keith, since I was complaining.
Oh, choking hazards.
He knows which ones I have, and he's given me stands with their names on them.
Unbelievable.
We appreciate you, Colin. And then, Keith, here you go. This one I'm really excited about. You ready for it?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to read it, and then I will show it.
Okay.
Let me get the sentence. I'm running out of space in my autograph collection, and I thought you would enjoy an autograph I got from Armin Shimmerman at a Star Trek convention I attended 25 years ago.
Holy crap!
As the series came to an end. I heard Quark was one of your favorite characters, so I thought this would be appropriate.
Oh my
Colin,
god.
I've got a Quark's bar sticker, some other Star Trek stickers in here with an Armin Shimmerman signed photo.
Oh my god.
This is so special. Not only is Quark one of my favorite characters, but Colin, to know that you were willing to part with this to help my collection is really special. This whole package was really special. The fact that you took the time to put something together and are a fan and are a peer to all of us here at Keith and K&M. Really, really touching, really special, and this will go in a pride of place area of my.
Oh, you got to get yourself a frame for
Get
that.
myself a frame, and it's going to go, I think, right up maybe next to.
Next year, because you have a whole collection of quarks now.
I've got a quark. Oh, you're absolutely right.
Beaming quark. You've got.
Yeah, they're all up there. At 100%, I see it right now. 100% know exactly where it's going. So
you need a whole like quark display.
Well, I have a pretty rad crystal box display of some original Chris figures that with uplights and everything. So I might have to make a separate one of all my quarks. So
you need a quark shrine.
Yeah, it's
dude, that is so cool.
Really awesome. So
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, Colin. And Keith, let's see what.
And I have a box too.
Yeah.
I don't have a toy cam, so I'll just give me a one shot, and I'll just put it up in front of the cameras. Wow. Okay, so here is I can't answer the phone theatrical index right now. I'm a terrible employee. All right. So luckily, nobody who works there watches this. All right. So Colin says, Keith, by the time you receive this package, you will no doubt have watched and recorded a review for your channel Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Trials and Tribble-ations. We're doing it right now. Enclosed are a bunch of items. I'm not going to say what it is because I want to look at it one at a time. So here we are with my box. First off, fantastic stickers.
Sweet.
This Visit Ryza sticker. I'm so glad to have another one because last one I got, I put on my phone case. And it's basically like my little shibboleth to see if another nerd recognizes me. And if they get it, we're friends. That's awesome.
That should be your dating kind of strategy as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, it's like, if you get this, we can date. If you don't, I have my own container of...
Yes! Tribbies.
Of Tribbles that the... Charlie is going to eat these.
Yeah, they are like they are the precise size, shape, and scope of cat toys. This. Yes,
but I could glue them to the top of my monitor. That might be fun.
Yeah, that's a thought.
That would be really awesome. That's fun. Oh my god! And a whole mess of stands and choking hazards. Yeah. This is look at that. Oh, that's fantastic, man. I see. I have my... All right, conspiracy theorists, that's not what this means.
Conspiracy
theory. So at the my bottom shelf there, I can't for the life of me keep the figures standing up with the cat. This is going to help greatly with that. Oh, I love the variety of stands Playmates did. There's got some really good ones in here. Ooh, look at that one. I don't even know what that's for.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Awesome. All right. So got more of that. Those are going to be fun to play with. And lastly, we have something in its own case. Wow. Okay. I don't know what this is. All right. So inside Starfleet Command case, it's like a pencil box from when we were in middle school. I love it. Inside, here it is. We're going to see it together. Oh, no way. Oh, dude.
What do we got?
Oh, I am so excited about this.
Well, let's go. Let's see.
This. All right. So I showed earlier while we were starting the episode, my Playmates collection of the figures made for this episode. Right. And, other true collectors will realize there's one missing from this. And that's because it's rare and hard to find. And I had not been able to get my hands on one yet. But you know what? You know what Colin does? He sees what I don't have and he fills it. Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
Look at that. There is the rare O'Brien figure. Let me get out of the frame so he'll come in. Focus, maybe. We're going to get out. Hold on. This is really difficult to do.
We definitely have got the gist.
All right. Hold on. Let me do this. Will you focus then?
Yeah, there we go. We got him.
There we go. Oh, look at
Very
that.
cool.
Oh my god, Colin, I am so excited
What
about
a great
this.
crossover we got here.
Dude, this is figure number 385. On the bottom of that. Oh, that's so cool.
All right. Well,
with all of his choking hazards in a case with the it's got the Tribble in there and his card and his stand. Oh my god, that's so cool.
that's rad, man. What a cool episode. Wait, Keith, we haven't even begun our episode, and we've had the best episode of toys.
And he knows I'm going to start having shame and guilt about the money spent on this. And he writes, "To be clear, I did not buy this for you. I bought this for myself from an eBay seller, wanted to use them as a red shirt for my TOS figures, but eventually was able to make one that suited me better. I knew you would probably want this for your collection. You're damn right. So here you are. Enjoy, Colin Dagan." Colin, once again, you have friggin' outdone yourself. We will definitely get all of this into an episode of Toys as well. But look at that.
Yeah, everybody's been sending us
They're
stuff.
complete.
Yeah,
it's complete. I've completed the collection. That's awesome.
All right, well, I guess we should do the episode.
Ooh. All right, what do you say? Let's talk about the episode. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so excited. All right, anyway, so
yeah, awesome.
We have a lot going on this episode. Yep. It's going to be like a 2-hour episode. Whatever, it's fine. That's what we're here for.
What's up, Jen?
Hi, Jen.
Huh?
All right.
Yeah, we've been recording for an hour and a half. But look, honey. It's a Quark, signed Quark.
Oh, oh my gosh, that's what Quark looks like?
Yeah. Yeah, that's Arbit Shimmerman.
So I'm going to frame it up and put it next to my Quarks, my Quark collection.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you, whoever sent that.
Colin
Dagan.
Yeah.
Colin.
Amazing. Well, hey, the Chancellor gave you a thumbs up.
It's true.
Now that is an honor, sir. All right, so Trials and Tribble-ations.
Did you see the thumbs up coming in?
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is very exciting. This is very exciting. So, the Trials and Tribble-ations. If you got here just on the chapter, we're but 40 minutes in. Aired on November 4th, 1996. This is the finale, Mike. This is the last week that the Macarena was at the top
Keith, it's also
of the charts.
last week that I didn't drive a car. I got my license on my 16th birthday, which is next week.
Oh.
I was born on the 13th of November. This is November 4th. So, yeah, goodbye, Mike, having to ask for a ride. And hello, Chevy Lumina that smelled like rotten tomatoes. We love you.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. I know everybody here's waiting. We got one more Macarena.
Use your imagination. The Tribbles are back and round and cute and hairy. That actually sounds like Keith to me, and that is kind of scary. Shatner and Packard back looked great, and that's kind of rarey. Hey, yes, you heard me right. I said Keith is cute. Hi.
You described me as round and hairy. That's not going to be the first two things on my dating profile.
The Tribbles are back and round and cute and hairy. That actually sounds like Keith to me, and that is kind of scary. Shat and Pack are back, looked great, and that is kind of rarey. Hey, I said Keith is cute.
Wow.
No, Keith. We even though the Tribbles that Colin sent have been put into a container, the packing peanuts in the box are not contained, and Tuxie is in.
It's already in the trunk. Oh, well, that's right. That's what they're there for.
You're right.
That's okay. That's okay. Oh, awesome.
He's got one,
awesome.
Jen. He's got one.
Out of control. I can't stop buffering.
It's okay. We gotta just. The Tribbles are in the wires, Keith.
Their Tribbles are eating the wires. That's what it is. All right, so the top movie this week in November of 1996 was Romeo and Juliet.
Wow.
This is the DiCaprio Claire Danes
Baz Luhrmann,
Romeo
right?
and Juliet. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, there you go. I don't think I ever saw that. I saw the original one back from like the 60s, but I did not see.
It's got one of my
DiCaprio
favorite
Claire Danes
Radiohead songs in it, which is called Exit Music for a Film off of OK Computer. Great tune.
one. Well, there you go. Mike, what was on TV tonight?
Too long of an episode, so that's what was on TV.
Okay. All right. Well, you were too busy watching two things. Celebrating the 30th anniversary of Star Trek, which is part of Trials and Tribble-ations is about. So we had a really fun time travel episode. But guess what? So was Voyager.
Oh,
also celebrating the 30th anniversary of Star Trek. This was Future's End Part 1, in which, spoiler alert, luckily Mike won't remember one by the time we get to Voyager, we're going to go back to the wacky, crazy times of 1990s Los Angeles and hang out with Sarah Silverman.
Oh,
so
Sarah Silverman.
Yes, indeed. So lots going on there. That's going to be fun to get to when we get to it. The weekly world news headline this week, we found out Clinton chilling with JFK.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you know? The Kennedys still very much part of our news.
Bob Dole wants his body frozen after he dies so he can run for president in the future.
Well, who knows? Maybe he did.
Nostradamus says that world will end during Clinton's second term. It turns out didn't happen that way.
It started the ball rolling. Yeah, but
America's top astrologer predicts Dole upset.
Well, he was upset.
Yeah, it still is.
So he's dead.
Yeah, and that pisses him off.
But he's frozen. He's frozen. So maybe he'll come back. All right. So this episode, all right, Trials and Tribble-ations. Here we go.
Let's get serious.
Was directed by Jonathan West, who last directed Return to Grace, but is primarily a cinematographer, which makes so much sense to hire somebody who is primarily a cinematographer to do this episode, and we'll talk more about why when we get in there. It has a teleplay by Ronald D. Moore and Renee Echevarria, two of the heavy hitters on the DS9 staff. I'm just starting Outlander, Ronald D. Moore's show, so that should be fun. It has Tribbles has a story by Ira Stephen Bear, showrunner Hans Beimler, and Robert Hewitt Wolf. I mean, these are the 5 top big kids on the writing staff. So, of course, they were doing this. And, of course, it's based on an original episode of the original series by David Gerrold, which means it's time. We got a lot. So sit down, get a snack in a episode thing we called, just hit the bumper.
But shouldn't we call it trivia?
Yes, we should.
Now, Keith, waste your time.
That locked and loaded for like 2 weeks.
Trivial!
Mike was so excited about that joke, he texted it to me like 4 days ago.
And we did nothing with it.
Look, I got a lot on my plate.
Hey, buddy, I hear you.
We're both starting rehearsals tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's true.
All right, so here we go.
Come on,
Trivial
man.
trivia.
Stop.
No, it's not going to happen. You got to let him have the packing peanuts. He's going to be pooping styrofoam, but whatever.
He doesn't eat them. He just moves them around the house. Then I have to find them.
Oh, that's fun. It's like an Easter egg.
Sure. Yeah, but that's fun. Actually, it's kind of fun. All right.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Here we go. So in order to stay true to the look of the original series, Jonathan West used 1960s style lenses and lighting techniques, which you could really see and really helped the integration of the characters. He also used a 1960s film stock with finer grain and 60s style color saturation, which was such a good move.
So I was going to talk about that, Keith, briefly. I won't belabor it because you brought it up, but so I think I mentioned in the watch along, I've been learning a bit about color grading recently because it's one of the things in film editing that I don't know much about. And it's much like mastering in the audio world, where it's very much an art more than a science. And digitally, it's very easy. Not easy, but it's much more easy these days because you can digitally manipulate just about anything, right? So you can change the amount of grain on something, the color curves, the exposure, all kinds of stuff. However, when something's shot on film, much like this show is, a lot of that, right, the original character of the original isn't just color saturation. That color saturation isn't something that was added, right? It's part of the film stock.
Right.
It's part of the grain of the film. The camera technology that was being used, all of that stuff. So to recreate it later, you have to kind of be an archaeologist, right? And pull that stuff.
And you have to go and get the actual old film and old equipment.
Yep, that job is much easier today.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, I mean, all the things that they do in this episode, in today's world, it's like, oh, okay, cool. But in 1996, what a technological achievement.
Yeah, and also it's one thing for like a group of fans or whatnot to emulate a property, because then you're just paying homage. But when it's Paramount, when it's the studio, there's an extra bit of expectation, right? They couldn't just phone it in, is what I'm saying.
Oh, no. Well, and also, I believe this is what kicked off the upgrading all of stuff and remastering stuff to HD. So I believe that, and maybe it's coming up later, but like this was, they went back to the original negatives and rescanned all of them from the original episode, which then kicked off them doing that for the whole series, as well as redoing some of the special effects. Anyway, I probably talked about it here. So at the time it was made, Ira Stephen Bear commented, this was probably the most expensive hour of episodic TV ever produced. The costs included recreation of the original sets. They had to rebuild the entire set of the original series for this. New costumes and props, new special effects shots, and residual payments to the original cast.
I had a suspicion that might be part of it.
So in the K7 bar, O'Brien is convinced that Lieutenant Freeman is Captain Kirk. Well, Lieutenant Freeman was played by the actor and stuntman Paul Baxley, who also frequently served as William Shatner's stunt double. Walter Koenig, Pavel Chekhov, of course, visited the set and showed Colin and Alexander Siddig how to properly interact with the set pieces. It's so cool. Like, generations all came together to make this episode.
Yeah,
Avery Brooks... go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's something so authentic, clearly, about the characters fangirling over the OG people, because it's not acting, right? Probably.
No, absolutely. Well, you know what? And that's going to tie in perfectly to my next piece of trivia. And that is Avery Brooks and Terry Farrell were not allowed to see the recreated Enterprise set until filming of their characters' arrival on the ship. This was done so their surprised reactions would be genuine. Awesome. So smart. So Charlie X and A Piece of the Action, both episodes of the original series, were originally considered for a reprisal before settling on The Trouble with Tribbles. By coincidence, while the producers were at a pizza parlor discussing the Tribbles, Charlie Brill happened to be there eating as well. Charlie Brill, of course, is the actor playing Armin. Ira Stephen Bear recognized Brill and offered him a chance to reprise his role. You never know. Just go eat pizza. It might be a whole nother chance. That's so cool.
I like that. Any excuse to eat pizza, really.
Right. All right. So this actually answers what I was going to say before. This episode led to the upgrading and refilming of the visual effects of The Trouble with Tribbles. And as the exterior shots of the Enterprise and Station K7 and the Klingon ships had to be redone, but also had to remain visually consistent with the original episodes. The Enterprise and Klingon ships were relatively easy. There were still some old models around. They actually shot models. However, none remained of the K7 space station, so a special effects crew had to painstakingly rewatch the old footage and rebuild the model from scratch. Crazy and super cool. And they reshot it differently. They all the shots were different as well. And if you want to go and watch Trouble with Tribbles, it's up on the Patreon page, patreon.com/K&M. And we watched the pre-upgrade, so the original version of all of this. And you can see why they couldn't use this at a higher definition, because there were like keying issues going on with the ship on a flyby.
And for fun fans who are unable or unwilling to participate financially in the Patreon, I believe that one is open to the public, so you can kind of see our nonsense. So yeah, if you're interested, go check it out. Patreon.com/K&M.
Go check it out. Really interesting. So additional classic footage, but not seen in the original Trouble with Tribbles, was added after being located among the original camera negatives of the footage from the finished episode. Scotty and Chekhov's party entering and sitting at a table and being served, the bartender trader fleeing to summon security, and Kirk asking his stunt double, now Chief O'Brien, who started the fight. So that was footage, extra footage they had laying around that they were able to use 30 years later. That's cool. That's really cool. The names of the Federation temporal investigators, Dulmer and Luxley, are almost anagrams of Mulder and Scully from the X-Files. It's not clear if the spelling of Dulmer rather than Dulmer, which would have made the anagram complete, is a goof or an intentional obfuscation. But awesome, sure. When the crew heard that the original Enterprise sets were going to be recreated, they became so enthusiastic. They finished all the sets in an astonishing 10 days.
Sheesh.
Everything had to be rebuilt from scratch as nothing was left from the production of Star Trek. So they rebuilt the entire Enterprise original series set in 10 days. Amazing. So David Gerrold, the writer of The Trouble with Tribbles, can be seen in 2 scenes. So the writer of the original series episode gets to be in this episode. He is the gray-haired man who passes Sisko and Dax when the Enterprise goes to red alert. Bashir and O'Brien later see him petting a Tribble in the corridor, which in actuality is an original Tribble used from A Trouble with Tribbles.
Sweet.
Gerald thought the episode was one of the cleverest Star Trek scripts I've ever read. No disagreement. Yeah, so that's trivia. It is now time to talk about the cleverest people we know. And they cleverly give us their money every month. Mike, would you please introduce them in a clever way?
So nice, Keith. Well done. Yeah, this slide is bigger than I ever expected, and so thankful to all of our patrons. You can jump in at the lowest cost at $1 to unlock all the goodness, because we want to make sure that no one is locked out because of this crazy economy we have. So I'd like to say thank you to Brian Kimball, Beersock, Jason Moe, Peter Bank, Frank Rinch, Quarks Bar, Merit Neef, Joshua Cronin, The Chesley, Andrew Hayes, The Mysterious Household, including the new Mysterious Walter White, Worf's Big Old Boot Shivs, Charles Babbage, Harry Pothead, Alan, Anton Thies, Carl Fisher, of course, CRM Productions. I think next weekend we'll get to see some other customs he's sent our way.
Whew,
Nikolai Ivanovich Lobachevsky, Delusions at Noon, YouTube viewer James Hubbard. Of course, JD Makes sending us stuff in the mail. Colin Dagan, you've seen his goodness. Chris Mitchell, Pat, Josh, JD, Lutz, and Wyatt. We can't be more thankful, but of course none of this would be possible without the everlasting support under the sort of dictatorial words. The Chancellor, and she is Jen. She's the most awesome person, guys. Keith and Mike, those are our patrons. I'm just reading words. Patreon.com/K. I think I had a stroke.
I mean, look, if you want to be dictatorial, you should probably take a dictatorial so you can know how to do it. So there you go. Our guest stars this week include Jack Blessing as Dulmer, James W. Jensen as Luxley, and Charlie Brill as Arnie Darvin, with Leslie Ackerman as the waitress, Charles S. Chun as the engineer, and Deidre L. Immersheen as Lieutenant Wadley. Here are some pictures from behind the scenes of them actually getting to play on the original set.
That's cool.
Very, very cool. What do you say?
What do they just have, like, stunt guys that were dressed like the other guy in here just to...
Yeah, well, they sort of integrated some of our own backgrounds and stunt guys into the original film. It had to be an unbelievably complex task of integrating all of that.
So was hitting this button.
right, here we go. Trouble with Trials and Tribble-ations. That's what I mean to say. We begin in our teaser with a shuttle we've never seen docking at the station. And we see it's two weird-looking humans who go straight to ops. Kira welcomes them, still pregnant. They filmed there's some questions about why Kira was there, who we know that Nana had just had a baby. Well, this was actually filmed out of order, an episode previous, because they obviously needed maybe a little extra time in post-production. So Nana had not had the baby yet when she filmed this episode. Kira welcomes them. They're Mulder and Scully from the Department of Temporal Investigations. And Mike, this is the first time we have met the Department of Temporal Investigations on Star Trek.
Right, I've met them previously, but in a future Star Trek. So I'm basically time hopping myself. No, but it's a future previous Star Trek. Because they're in Strange New Worlds.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, remember after What's Her Bucket is...
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that's right.
She meets them, or meets one of them.
Right. Now it's all coming back to me. But this is the first ever appearance of that concept.
Cool.
But, spoiler alert, we'll probably hear from them more.
Cool.
So they go to meet Sisko. They are, of course, investigating a temporal incident. The Defiant went back in time. They make a whole bunch of time travel jokes and puns, and Sisko begins the story. Sisko also does a terrific good take being annoyed that one of them is fondling his baseball. It is interesting because these guys are clearly aware of history and time and perhaps wants to touch Sisko's baseball without giving away that, like, oh, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Interesting.
Or they're flexing, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. No, they definitely are bigfooting around because we exist outside of time.
This now isn't the first time we've used the framing device of, oh, let's have Sisko sit down and begin to spin a yarn, and we know it's going to be a flashback type of thing, which is very comforting because you know that the story is going to be self-contained and can't have huge ramifications, right? So you know you're in for sort of a romp.
We're probably going to have something fun. Yeah, no, for sure. I actually love that kind of framing device. Mm-hmm. It makes things feel more epic in a way.
Right.
And so it feels like, oh, this is like iconic. I like it. So he explains that 2 weeks ago, the Cardassians contacted the Federation asking to return a Bajoran orb, which turns out to be the Orb of Time. Why, I might ask. This is like my only real wormhole in this episode. Why are the Cardassians just returning an orb for no reason?
Yeah. I didn't really think about that hard about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we're going to file that under the Department of Who Cares.
Mm-hmm. But it feels like of all the orbs, the time orb seems important.
Well, especially for those, the Cardassians right now are getting blown to crap by the Klingons.
Well, not only that, if you think about it, if we're going to go down this road for a second, didn't just like a week or so ago, a terrorists attempt, a Bajoran god terrorists try to like blow up all the gods? So maybe now's not a time to be like just passing around. Or maybe that's, Keith, that's it. They the prophets and the Bajorans have realized that potentially there is attacks coming, and so they need to relocate some of the orbs such that they can't be Pa-Wraith attacked.
Yeah, well, I mean, they probably thought this is more dangerous than it's worth it.
Yeah, so let's go.
But also maybe like, please help us with the Klingons. We'll give you this orb.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, who cares? So the Defiant picks up the orb, but also picks up a passenger, a human trader named Barry, who was trapped on Cardassia when the war started. And he's really excited to order some Roctigino. That's gonna come back. He calls Klingons foul-smelling barbarians, and Bashir and O'Brien tease Worf about his peaty, earthy smell with a touch of lilac. Very funny take from Dorn here. I thought they handled the comedy of that really well, all three of them.
They're finding their ensemble footing with the sass.
They try and talk Dax into teasing him too when there is a chronoton surge and the lights go goofy, and that's never good. And all of a sudden, they've been transported 200 light years, and then they almost bump into, wait for it, the freaking Enterprise! The NCC 1701, no bloody A, B, C, D, E, F, or any other of the alphabets. And certainly, if you didn't know what was coming, what a way to end a teaser.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Boom. There is original series Enterprise just right there in front of us on the view screen. They play a little bit of the original theme music. It's exciting. It's really, really fun. So in Act 2, back in the present, Act 1, Sisko continues to explain. Mulder and Scully point out that there have been 6 Enterprises, which of course is wrong. Both because we know they continued to make Enterprises moving forward, but also this does not speak of the NX-01, Archer's Enterprise, because that series wasn't even a twinkle in Berman's eye quite yet. So we didn't know that existed. But because we try to fix it because it's a prototype, so not an official ship. I don't know, but anyway, these are fallible temporal agents. They don't know everything. So, but they realize it's Kirk's Enterprise, and they call Kirk a menace. He has 17 temporal infractions. He's always up to no good. Perhaps the only person worse is probably Janeway with her temporal infractions.
You know, it sucks with Janeway. It sucks that Playmates went back in time and pulled her figure from production.
Yeah, the 2023 figure. Yes, they did put out a couple of them in the back in the 90s, but I'm excited to get to Voyager. But we got a lot of miles to go before we get there.
Yeah.
So Sisko gives the star date and the of where they went back to, and the temporal guys know immediately that was 105 years ago and on a Friday. Why do you think they mentioned that it was on a Friday, Mike?
Because that's probably when it aired on television.
It aired on television on a Friday. Well played, Mike. So back on the Defiant, in the past, our heroes have figured out that Barry is actually Arn Darvin from Trouble with Tribbles, a Klingon made to look like a human, and he brought them back in time to when he was a spy on Space Station K7, where Kirk is just about to catch him with a Tribble who outs him as a Klingon and end his career. He's going to try to change his future, and our heroes have to stop him before he changes history, setting us on the task. What a great, fun setup. Like, it's
for sure.
It's simple, it's easy, you know, obviously, because we're doing like 2 episodes at the same time. And
Do
we only
know
have
how he is a time traveler, that guy?
the Orb of Time.
Oh,
The Bajoran Orb. That's why he's here, buddy.
you're right. My bad.
I left my communicator upstairs. Oh, no, I didn't. Hold on. Hold on.
Oh, hell
There
yeah.
we go.
Captain James Kirk of the USS Enterprise.
All right, so this is the 2023 Playmates communicator. Fun.
It
All
is
right.
basically made for exactly this purpose.
I mean, it's yeah, it looks pretty good. So anyway, where was I? So they have to figure out, they got to stop him, but they don't know where he is. He could either be on the Enterprise or on the station K7. So our heroes are going to have to go undercover and search for him. It's time for some dress up.
It's cosplay, baby.
Into original series era uniforms. Look at them right there. We are reminded that command and operations uniforms have swapped, the colors have swapped because Patrick Stewart looked bad in gold. And Dex doesn't get to wear pants anymore.
Great line there.
Both,
Great line.
her and Bashir seem to be delighted by it. Wait, oh, here we go. So, and of course, here we go with, there is Dax. We see Bashir. We see Sisko. We see me frozen. We see Sisko. And then, of course, now completed by Colin Dagan, we see O'Brien. Ah, yes. All right. So,
we also,
O'Brien
and I didn't see it when it first came through, but we also have Worf and Odo wearing the pocket jackets that are favorite character.
Shoulder pockets.
The shoulder
they were
pockets,
very in at that era. They did not make a Worf figure, interestingly, in this line. He'd be the last person we'd need. But yeah, shoulder pockets, all the rage, all the rage. So O'Brien explains that they can decloak the Defiant and beam them on without being detected by the Enterprise because of the Enterprise's antiquated sensors. Meanwhile, Worf and Odo are going to search the station while our other heroes are going to be on the Enterprise itself. And Sisko and Dax then beam on and arrive on the Enterprise, the original Enterprise, and start walking the corridors. And this is where you realize, oh wow, we're not gonna be in the peripheral of this. We are actually gonna hop right into it. No, it's one of those things where it's the 90s, right? And you have to run a trailer for this episode, like next week, coming up, whatever, and you're gonna show some of this. I wish I lived in a world where that, if it were today, you wouldn't necessarily get a trailer. And so this all could have been genuinely a surprise. And that would have been so well, but you had that experience.
I did. I definitely expected Tribbles. Like, I thought it was going to be the Tribbles were going to reintroduce themselves onto the station, and it would be just, I didn't know we were going to Forrest Gump it, which was awesome.
Yeah. So that's true. Mike had the only one of us here watching got to see it truly fresh with Mike's eyes, which is why I'm such a prick about spoilers.
And I never would have guessed that they were going to composite with the original characters. I thought that would have been such a, especially
an impossible task at that point. Yeah, for sure. So in Act 2, Bashir and O'Brien, look at those. They rebuilt the whole sets.
Awesome. For me, the composite's awesome, but I have to tell you, for me, the production grading, the post-production is what really impressed me the most. Like, because we just watched this, the color grading, the film grade, everything is great. And even the scale, to establish those shots, inserting our people and not have it look weird. There's one shot at the end where when Kirk and Sisko are together where the scale doesn't work properly quite, but that's it. That's the only thing that popped out to me, and I was looking for it, so it was awesome. Yeah.
Well, and shots like this, they're perfect because they just built the set. It's not a digital recreation. They're not being inserted. They built the whole set.
Yeah, right.
Which this set exists in Fort Ticonderoga, just upstate, where somebody rebuilt the entire original series set. You can go there and walk on it in real life.
We might have to go do that.
It's owned and run by an Elvis impersonator. It's a whole thing. We actually probably should. That'd be fun. All right. So in Act 2, Bashir and O'Brien beam onto a turbolift. O'Brien tries to give it voice commands, but it doesn't work. They are baffled. When an attractive woman arrives and demonstrates that they just need to have their hand on the wall dick in order to make the elevator go.
What do you think? Hold on, quick. I meant to bring this up in the watch along. So clearly, Bashir's shirt has been somewhat tailored. They hemmed the sleeves. They made it fit. But for O'Brien's, it's clear that they did not. Right? They have the long sleeves. They don't even try to cuff them or anything. They just like have them be a little bit. There must be a narrative reason they did that. Like at least a joke.
I mean, I think
because he seems out of sorts the whole GD time.
Well, I mean, O'Brien is hilariously out of place here. A running joke of the episode is that all of his engineering skills are utterly useless. He knows nothing about this time period. So he's supposed to be a little fish out of water, but also like Bashir's a doctor and he's at a higher rank, as you can see from the sleeve. Also, so maybe the higher rank you go, the better, more tailored stuff you get.
A lot of stuff shot back then was a little bit overexposed, And it's funny how like that his type of skin tone does not play well with overexposed shots. Like he's just even more pink and like translucent. It's pretty funny.
Well, we talk about how overlit most 90s television is, because of, you know, it's you're on an old low definition television and they're all different sizes or whatever, and so it's all overlit, but it's nothing overlit like it was back in the 60s.
Right.
Which they lit this obviously exactly as they did in the 60s, so everything is overexposed. But also because you're accounting for much worse televisions, but also most people watched the original series the first time in black and white.
Yeah. So
everything had to be wildly overdone this way, even though it was in color. And, you know, you lost resolution when you went from color from black and white to start with back then anyway. So everything had to be over
that would have been an
saturated, over
interesting choice to run the back in time parts in black and white. Monochrome would have been cool. You lose a little something with the identity of the color grading and such, but
I think the problem was subsequent to that, more people watched the reruns of Star Trek in the 70s and 80s, and that's what got it back.
Right.
It wasn't the original, like, we would never have had the Star Trek movies and the rest of the Star Trek universe if it hadn't been for the reruns.
Mm-hmm.
The original run was not successful. It got canceled after 3 seasons. And I think most people would identify with it in color, which is why that wouldn't work. But coming up on Voyager, we will have some really fun black and white sequences. Anyway, so
and by coming up, Keith means in 3 years.
In 3 years, oh for sure, yeah. But it's gonna be so good. Sean's gonna come on sometimes. It's gonna be great. So Bashir, he doesn't understand how to operate the elevator without touching the wall dick, and Bashir says, "I won't tell anybody if you don't." Meanwhile, Sisko and Dax remark about how crowded the ship is. Sisko tries to do some sensor stuff while Dax talks about how much she enjoys the old-style tricorder. She was around then, and she experienced all of this the first time. Then Odo arrives at the station's bar and sits down at the table. He tries to casually scan, but then in walks, for the first time, Chekhov and Uhura. And we see them start a conversation with Cyrano Jones about the Tribbles, and this was your first time seeing, oh, the original cast is here.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Like, this isn't just done on these sets. This is this episode. We're actually seeing real moments from that episode. So much fun. A barely dressed waitress comes up to take Odo's order, and he orders a Raktajino, and she says, well, that's the second time that got ordered today. It doesn't even know what it is. And Odo is immediately suspicious and knows that Garvin was here. Then we see the Tribbles scene with Odo in the background. So we introduced the Tribbles in playing the same scene, but now Odo is integrated in the background flawlessly. I see absolutely no flaw whatsoever in now Odo's just sitting there, and the patrons
slightly out
were
of
discussing
focus. That's good.
The patrons on the watch along, because I had to come to this one, were joking that now if you go back and watch the original series, you'll see Odo sitting there in the background of that scene. You wouldn't have thought, but if you watched it the first time, he wouldn't be there. But now he's there forever.
It's a temporal thing. You have to watch.
Temporal paradox. Meanwhile, O'Brien and Bashir scan when an engineer comes in to repair something, and he's immediately suspicious. Why is there a doctor using a medical tricorder here to fix this thing? They cover badly by pretending that Bashir is studying O'Brien for work-related stress. O'Brien continues to be hilariously lost with the original series era technology. In the bar, Worf enters, and he is finished searching the habitat. He finds Odo holding a Tribble, and of course it screams at Worf immediately because Tribbles and Klingons don't get along. In Act 3, Worf is pissed. The Tribbles are a mortal enemy of the Klingons. They do nothing but consume food and breed. They're an ecological menace. Now, Mike, do you know why the Klingons became infested with Tribbles?
don't they at the end of the episode, isn't the resolution that they're like, what are we gonna do with all the Tribbles, and they like sent them onto the Klingon ship?
They beam them all onto the Klingon ship.
Actually plays out just like it would. It's very much, as stupid as this is, it's very much the Lanternfly thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like how they took over Pennsylvania, New York, and Jersey, because they weren't supposed to get on that IKEA truck, and they did.
Invasive species? Yep. Absolutely. I mean, it's really... Well, hold on, I got a plan here. Here we go.
I guess we're doing it. I gotta do it as well.
Yeah, we've all got to do it. Oh, there it is. All right. Okay, that one's going to go in the cat. I've already lost one. I've already lost one. So, Worf talks about the battles that the Klingons had with the Tribbles. He says hundreds of warriors were sent to track them down throughout the galaxy. An armada obliterated the Tribbles' home world. By the end of the 23rd century, they were eradicated. I can't imagine.
That's awesome.
The Klingons blowing up a planet to kill Tribbles.
And it works so great because Worf plays it so straight. I love that.
It's there. I've got a mirror Tribble here. I've got a hunch Tribble. It's perfect. And Odo, of course, says another glorious chapter in Klingon history. Tell me, do they still sing songs about the great Tribble hunt? Then there's a red alert. The Klingons have arrived. Sisko tries to call the Defiant by pressing his logo. Then remembers he still needs to use his Nokia flip phone. Kirk says Kira says it's Koloth's ship. And Dax remembers Koloth telling Curzon about this incident. She wants to go hang out with her old buddy, but Sisko shuts it down. You're going to have too much fun. To be fair, we're all having too much fun at this point. So they continue to try and scan the ship. Bashir and O'Brien end up back on the turbolift with the same attractive officer. She hits on Bashir pretty aggressively. That when she leaves, we find out this is Bashir's great-grandmother. And he tries to justify chasing her down and becoming his own great-grandfather.
So what is great about this scene to me? Great, maybe. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but interesting, I'll say.
Hilarious.
Hilarious is so I literally a couple days ago watched for the first time Back to the Future with my nieces. It was the first time they've ever seen it, and Talia, one of them, was commenting about how it was weird to see his mom hitting on him. Spoilers for Back to the Future 1, and she's like, what makes it work is that, he's so grossed out by it, right? He's like, she doesn't know it's him, but he, knowing that it's his mother, is like revolted. Here, the complete opposite makes me laugh.
He's like,
but you would think Bashir's got to talk himself out of it. He's like, but instead he's like, no, I definitely want to bang great-grandma.
Oh, he's probably met.
Yes, he's like 100% DTF,
Like, I know Nana. Yeah. In this universe, people live she might still be alive.
Yeah, he's like, well, she's hot here, so, I mean...
I'm gonna go hit it.
Is what it is.
Like, he fights pretty hard.
Yeah, it's really funny.
So funny. But, like, it's Bashir, right? It actually kind of makes sense.
And, of course, O'Brien is what sells it, because he's, like, completely put off by it.
I need to get out of this this elevator. So Kira beams them back to the Defiant mercifully. That is the face. Go back one. That, folks, is the face of the guy who's like, yeah, I'd hit my great-grandmother.
Though I will say, hold on, Mike and Deglio, there is enough scientific rationale into his temporal sort of loop that, I buy it.
I think Mike was like, well, I don't know. Nana looks good in that little squirt there.
I'm sure they got like a light beam that can do away with any of these sort of developmental challenges that could be at risk For temporal grandma bang? You know, TGB?
Yes.
Can I get out of this episode?
I do hear the listeners. I hear the listeners saying, yes, you want us to move on? Okay, great, okay.
So now Dax has to bang fantasize.
Yeah, ooh.
The 60s were horny, man.
They sure were. I mean, it seems to be still the case. Meanwhile, Sisko and Dax run into...
Well, the 60s were horny, and Bashir was horny for people in their 60s, so...
That's right. Sisko and Dax run into Kirk and Spock, and they watch from afar. The effects are remarkably well integrated. Look at that. So, still shot right here. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We know that they're sort of like green screened, cut out. It's really, really good. And what makes it good is not that they couldn't do doubles like that. We've seen that many times on the show before. But you do that with planning and layering the shots and figuring out how to do that. They didn't do that here. They had to cut out a piece of the original footage that there's no green screen behind Kirk and Spock there.
Right.
They had to do it all. Like you didn't get to do that planning. So Dax thinks Spock is hot. And so Sisko pulls her away. And they discuss wanting to meet Kirk, but they know that they can't. And two things. One, meta makes perfect sense because Dax married Spock's son in real life.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. So, Adam Nimoy and Terry Farrell actually got married. So, there you go.
Cool, man.
And then Dax says something that I think was really well... It didn't break the fourth wall because it makes perfect sense for Dax, but it also spoke for everybody watching this show as a fan of the original series. Dax says, I guess the difference between you and me is that I remember this time. I lived in this time. And it's hard to want to be part of it again. It's hard not to want to be part of it again. It's great. Of course. It's great meta commentary. So we see more great... redone but stylistically consistent effects of the Enterprise orbiting the station at a much higher resolution and much better effects of the outside. I'm sure we'll stumble across some. Then Bashir and O'Brien arrive in the bar and they tease Odo and Worf. Oh yeah, there it is. That's so cool. This was not a shot they used in the original series, but it fits. It fits really well. So Bashir and O'Brien arrive in the bar and tease Odo and Worf about hanging out in the bar instead of searching the rest of the station because this and the hallway are the only sets they built of the station. Makes perfect sense. Then they watch as Scotty and Kirk's stunt double, who they mistake as Kirk, enter. Odo, Bashir, and O'Brien then realize that the room is full of Klingons who, look pretty much like humans with chin beards. They are baffled. And they turn to Worf and said, what the hell? They pitch ideas about how this could possibly have happened, but Worf says, I don't want to talk about it. Will this be explained in a future series? Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Gonna have to find out. Then the iconic fight scene begins. And this time our heroes are in the middle of it. The famous fight scene happens. There's more terrific integration of the contemporary and classic footage here as they go through the extended fight sequence. And so scroll through that and see if you can tell which shots are manipulated and which ones aren't. Because you can't. And this, again, may I remind you, is 1996 technology. And you can also see here that they did go back and upscale the original. They didn't upscale it. They went back to the original negatives. So we're seeing these scenes at a higher resolution than they were ever broadcast on television back in the day. And we even have Cyrano going through. He does the whole drink bit. But here, perfect example. There's another person in that shot that was not in the original shot. So we see Arne Darwin in the background there So good. So just as the security guards show up and shut it down, Odo and Worf spot Garvin in the hallway, and they chase, leaving O'Brien and Bashir to be arrested. At the beginning of Act 4, Mulder and Scully chew out Sisko a little bit more, then we return to the story. And Bashir and O'Brien get chewed out by Kirk himself. And they get integrated into the famous lineup.
This one looks
really
super
seamless.
great. Yeah.
It's, I mean, what an incredible effect they are able to do there in 1996. So,
and it's so cool, too, because, you know, it just worked out this way. But because Shatner played this episode with such a sort of wink and nod of camp anyway,
right,
this take here is really, it's almost as if he's in on it as well. You know what I mean? It really kind of it blends it all so nicely.
It's like 1966 Shatner is in on the joke, interacting with O'Brien. It's so good. It's really seamless, and including there's a quick shot there of Kirk's shadow over O'Brien. It's very impressive. So he, of course, has to lie to Kirk, and they discuss that when they step on a Tribble. Uh-oh, they're everywhere. Back on the Defiant, Odo and Worf have arrested Arvin. And Arvin, conveniently, because not a lot of time, we got a lot of ground to cover, villain monologues that he's planning to kill Kirk with an exploding Tribble. And now our objective is to find the ticking Tribble. Dax has a plan to get onto the bridge of the Enterprise because that's where the good scanners are. And, you know, good TV. But they're going to have to, on the station, they're going to have to scan the Tribbles one at a time. And Dax gives Spock's calculations on their multiplying, of course, exactly word for word. On the bridge, Dax and Sisko are now in the scene when Kirk sits on a Tribble. But that scene, which played comedically the first time, is now suspenseful. And we have now changed the context of these original scenes, which is, you know, David Garrow, the writer of the original, thought this was the most clever script he'd ever read. It is so clever.
Yeah, and it's even meta above that to me, because what's the first thing you think about? We even joked about it on our watch-along of Tribbles. Is like, can you imagine being the people up there as Shatner's doing that, like, very funny scene, just tossing Tribbles down that shoot, right? To then think to retrofit it so that it's actually Dax and Sisko.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get there, but, like, my God.
I actually need to now watch the Tribble episode again. And think about how they fit everything in.
And you might be able to find on YouTube, you can watch them side by side.
Oh, cool.
And they time out correctly, I believe.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I mean, it's just, what an achievement. So, on the bridge here, where we have the new context, now suspenseful, there is a tracking shot of Kirk crossing in front of the consoles, walking down, and the camera's moving, and we see Dax follow him in the scene, and it's an impressive technical flex, considering that she was half on a green screen and had to match the camera's motions. So, like, the degree of difficulty on that, like, it's hard to do with a locked camera. But when you have a camera move and you're moving as well in the moving shot, they just did that as a flex. But it's pretty impressive. So Sisko scans the ship and confirms the exploding one is not on the Enterprise. But then, we're not just going to leave. First, McCoy shows up, and Dax remembers, oh yeah, we banged back in the day. And he had the hands of a surgeon. Hilarious. And we have a shot there where Avery gets real close to doing a take directly to camera. So they had a camera here, and he had his eye line right there. Just so close to looking straight down the barrel. Great. It's so much fun. The thing about this episode, it's just fun. It's just so much fun. But they they know the exploding Tribble is on the station, and we, the audience only, discover that it is in the grain, of course. So in Act 5, on the station, O'Brien, Odo, and Bashir are frantically scanning Tribbles to no avail. Dax has the idea to look where they know Kirk is going to be, and they track him to the mess hall where we see the Tribbles and my conversation. And as Kirk enters, right here, we see that we see Sisko. I lost my place. Oh, replacing an extra, who, if you go back and watch, this is why you should go back and see the Tribbles episode. There was an extra sitting in that spot in a weird angle, the way he was sitting. So when Sisko replaced him, he had to sit in that like weird spot that way in order to integrate him into the scene. Again, just so much fun. So we see them realize that the Tribbles are in the air vents, and they realize that the bomb Tribble is, of course, in the storage compartment on the station. So Sisko and Dax immediately beam over, and we see the inside of the storage compartment, which we never saw in the original episode, and they can tell that it's in here somewhere, but we gotta scan them one at a time. And Kirk opens the door and is showered in Tribbles in the iconic image of him being showered in Tribbles, and Sisko and Dax continue scanning as fast as they can, tossing Tribbles through the door, explaining how and why they kept falling on Kirk in the original episode. We joked about the people who got to throw the Tribbles at Kirk, and we know it was Sisko and Dax, of course. I mean,
awesome.
It's just clever and fun, and like, what a fun episode to write.
Oh,
like, just to think through, how can we make it them doing this? How can we integrate our folks into that? What a freaking blast. Sisko finds the exploding Tribble, although I'm pretty sure it's a different one than the one we were shown at the end of Act 4. Who knows? Maybe it's lighting. They beam it into space, and it explodes. And all is well. Darwin is caught again. Kira, who has been largely off-screen for this, figures out how to use the orb to bring them back to the present. But not before Sisko gets himself a cameo from Kirk. I wonder how much it cost. It's really fun. I don't think that's
maybe it's not so the scale. You know what it is? It's the eye line. They couldn't get the Kirk eye line.
Yeah, his eye line was a little off. Yeah. It's still pretty good,
whatever,
though.
Awesome. You know what that would be is if you could like kind of, that's a cool poster or like a framed something.
Oh, yeah.
Get them both the side, maybe.
The dark lighting on the bridge here looks so good. So he gets to meet Kirk. That's a poster I'd want right there. So cool. It's really fun. So back in the present, the temporal investigators basically clear them. They didn't mess up that much. It's just too much fun. Everybody is relieved, and the investigators leave, but they didn't tell them everything. Of course, the station is now wildly infested with Tribbles. Fun. How can you not finish this? There's a Tribble on Quark's head. It's silly, but like, how can you not?
Yeah, all is forgiven.
Now, on the bonus content in the DVD, you can actually watch a 25-minute sequence of Worf running around the station, just cutting them in half with a batleth like a lunatic. Blood everywhere. It's incredibly violent. So definitely check that. It doesn't exist.
Okay, I was like, damn, I'm gonna watch that.
Just Worf going around massacring.
I was like, that's a
blood
bold take, but that's why they cut it, I guess.
That's probably why they cut it. And that is Trials and Tribble-ations. Mike, what do you say? Let's adjudicate a little bit, shall we?
AlamarEmmys, count to 4. AlamarEmmys, then one more.
2, 3, 4, 2.
AlamarEmmys, it's AlamarEmmys time.
Okay. let us adjudicate this iconic episode. Starting off with wormholes. Mike, were there any wormholes in this episode?
I'm sure there were. I couldn't tell you what they were. I wasn't paying too much attention to that kind of stuff. I think, like you said, the MacGuffin of getting us back in time and the time dome and the boom and the blah, 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 blah. None of it really mattered to me. Yeah, so, yeah, whatever. Wormhole, schmermhole.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I mentioned, the Cardassians returning the orb and us finding file all of that under who gives a crap.
Mm-hmm.
This is too much fun. That's all I got to say. Let's talk best moment.
There's so many great moments. I'm just going to pick a one we didn't talk much about during the summary because I thought it was awesome. So what else is this an opportunity to do, right? So you want to wink and nod. You want to have some iconic hero shots. You want to pay respect, all the stuff. But what they also got to do, which I thought was awesome, was when they get to the point where somebody, and that somebody is Worf, has to explain why the Klingons look like normal folk with evil man mustaches, and what happened. And the way they do it, which is basically him just saying, we don't talk about it to regular folk, that's top secret, with Dorn's performance of it, which there is no wink and nod. It is straight, just like the Tribbles were a massacre. This is like, we don't talk about the rise of the Third Reich, right? Like, it's like,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
it's so great. It's such a nod to people who are like really into the universe. It's such a actual great explanation and way to sort of techno-babble your way through it without actually having to come up with something narratively. I just thought it was awesome, and it was perfectly placed and executed.
Yeah. Boy, it's so hard to pick a best moment from this, because like it's all just so much fun. I think I'm going to. I think I will just pick what I thought was the cleverest part of a great. You know what? No, I'm going to change it in my head. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say the best moment is the integration of stakes into comedic scenes that were never there before. Because Kirk sitting on the Tribble and now it might be a bomb. So clever. Because like I get because we're not just putting people into the scene. We're adding extra context to it that is different this time. And that's it's both fun and clever and just awesome. Just awesome. So that's what it is for me. And what do you say we do some self-sealing stem bolts? And I'm going to refresh my feed while that bumper is playing.
You get some stem bolts. Hell yeah, they are self-sealing. Here are some stem bolts for you.
Okay, Mikey. What do you think? It's not. I don't think it's me. I think it's on your end, bud.
It definitely can't be me. I mean, I look great.
I look great too. No,
I got no. I'm getting. I have
everything looks good on my end.
full package.
I don't understand what's happening.
It must be. You know what? I'm sure it's NDI in between.
Yeah,
It's got to be
something like
the
that.
So many ways to go about this, but I'm gonna use this analogy. And remember, folks, I love me some Star Trek. It turns out, but I am not a stan, right? Like I am not.
You're well on your way.
I'm well on my way, but okay. So there is a difference. I love a theme park, Keith. I love a theme park. I love roller coasters. I love thrill rides. I love the vibe. I love fun. I love anything that makes me feel like a kid again. So I'm the perfect candidate for, and I don't get vertigo or get sick, except if it's very spinny. So I love a theme park. But there is a difference between a day spent at Hershey Park, which is a great theme park, and a day spent at Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom. And the difference is immersion. Whereas one is fun and games and just a ton of, just like rides, and one is thematic immersion into a property, into an IP, into fun. And this episode could have very well been the former. Could have just been fun and gags. And look, there's some Tribbles on the thing, and then, oh, there's Kirk walking by. We could have just cut to a scene, like they walk by the cantina and they see the fight happening, and that's... But they didn't. They spent the money, they spent the time, and not only that, but they thought through the plot, and they thought through ways of doing the integration that would be both iconic, but also plot forward, and also decided if we're going to do it, we're going to execute it. And at no point does this episode feel shoehorned. Does it feel like it's being done for just the purpose of fan service? They did it. They did it. They committed to it and they worked it. I will say that thematically, it works better than when they do it in a major motion picture. I think it looks better and works better for me than Forrest Gump does. The Forrest Gump stuff felt sort of purposefully a little jarring and comedic, whereas this is comedic but not jarring. It works. And what else can you say, right? I don't even really judge this amongst the pantheon of episodes. It has nothing to do with kind of, even though they work in our sort of ongoing plot, but it's not about that at all.
No.
And listen, how do you put a rank on a day at Disney? It's awesome. It was really expensive. But I didn't have to pay. You know what I mean? I got to just go for it's like a free ticket for me. I effing loved it. It's hard to judge it in the scale, so I'm just gonna say, you know what? I mean, to give out 100 stembles is just insane. We haven't done it yet, so I'm going to not do it yet, and I'm gonna say 99 self-sealing stem bolts.
Yeah. Okay, so I gotta try to wrap my head around my feelings about all of this, because there's so many layers happening with this, right? You start with the writing, right? The writing of this episode is so elaborately clever, right? The integration of our story into their story is so good, but it's not just that we're there, right? The cleverness goes into how we're there and how we're changing the context of the original story by being there. So now we have an exploding Tribble that Kirk might be sitting on, right? We have the perspective of the fans being written into our characters being the fans here. They're fangirling this whole sequence here. We're telling two complete stories in shorter than the original series had to tell the one story, right? Because the original series was, I think, 52 minutes. We're 46 max. So, and then we're telling these two different stories at the same time. And so all of that is great. The comedy is great. It's really funny. The performances are great. The performances of the fangirling, of the comedy, it's all just perfectly on there. It's a romp. It's really fun. The introduction of the temporal investigators, right? That's introducing a totally different thing into our world here that we've never seen before. But I think lastly, the thing that this does, and I think this is the heaviest lift, because the feel of Star Trek from the original series to Next Gen, the way it looks, the way we tell stories, the way we interact, right? The tone, it's all very different, right? And I say this as somebody who grew up on 90s era Trek. When I watched the original series, because of what I was raised on, it doesn't feel like Trek to me, because it wasn't my core Trek. It feels like this other thing, in the same way that people who grew up on the original series watched the Next Generation, like, this isn't Trek. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't have the same tone, the same look, the same vibe, right? And so what this episode does is it integrates two very different series in a way that feels both justified, but feels like this happens in the same world. And because it's technically different. The tone is different. Everything, the stakes of everything is very different. This takes fans of one era who grew up in one era and fans of another era and takes them by the hand and lets them hold hands for a minute here. And it's really fun and satisfying and shows respect to both sides. And I think that part of it, it's, allowing the generations to hang out together a little bit, knowing that in the context of the world, they weren't necessarily getting along that well. The fans' generations. In the same way that right now, us stodgy 90s folks are like, this new stuff isn't Trek. It's different. I don't like it, right? It's almost like right now, we need to have contemporary Trek do this with 90s Trek. And, we do it a little bit with Picard or whatever, but it's almost like we need to do this again to get these two generations of shows and timelines and fans to, hold hands for a little bit and show respect to the two different worlds, which have different tones and different technical capabilities and different casts and different eras. So it was such an achievement in goodwill.
I feel like we should note that since we do you can check out the first 2 seasons of Strange New Worlds on our first season.
First 2 seasons.
First 2 seasons on our YouTube page. And our feelings of that are mixed, I'd say, but I think they do a very good job of it, of trying to reach back and tie it to the original
and
property.
Lower Decks really does.
Uh-huh.
I
hope that finds a new home.
I do too. I really enjoy Lower Decks. Anyway, so the colossal achievement of all of those things happening at the same time, it is incredible. It is an incredible achievement. I think this episode is a masterpiece on a bunch of different levels. So at the end of the day, I'm saving my 100 for one more episode. But this one gets a hard 99 for me. I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I think it's in any number of different levels. And
I actually appreciate that they don't do the thing I said, that they don't attempt to tie it really to the major arch plot, because I think what's awesome is that you could justifiably show this to anybody, right, who is a fan of the original and never watched Deep Space and be like,
yeah,
check this out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you've got all the characters of the show, with the exception of Kier, which I'm sure it sucked to not be really a part of it, but
or Quark.
Or Quark, really firing it on all cylinders and doing yeoman's work, and so excited about it. What a freaking joy, man. Like you said, just a ton of fun.
Ton of fun. So 99s from both of us. If you want to give your opinion, which I'm sure you will, leave it on the YouTube comments below. If you want me to read it, just be a patron at patreon.com/KM. I will leave you with the IMDb ranking of this episode. What do you think? How do you think this did in the IMDb ranking?
I gotta imagine people love this, right? It's gotta be in the top 10.
It gets a 9.3. This is episode number 2.
So it's Jason Moe is on the nose.
It is number 2 out of 173 episodes of Deep Space Nine. Next week, we will be talking...
Beat shift,
no
Keith?
spoilers, but get ready for some whiplash, because we are going to be talking about Let He Who Is Without Sin. I'm not sure if it's going to be this week or the week after that. To prepare everybody, we are going to be going dark for us a week. To give Mike a chance. Mike is starring and directing in a full-on musical, so he might need an extra week off. I will try to do something fun with everybody myself, but we will be taking a week off, which means we know we're behind on our movie watch-alongs. We are going to catch up and hopefully be able to do 2 in May or June or whatever. We're gonna make good. I promise we're gonna do it all, but this next month is going to be a little bananas for Mikey, so we are going to
Keith,
try
I
to
think
accommodate
and I think you and I are due for it. I'm not promising, but I do think Maybe a K&M road trip up to that thing might be worth doing and documenting.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Just
could
put
be
it
fun.
out there. That could be fun.
Could be fun. Probably not while you're in starring and directing in a show.
No. What my life was going to slow down quite a bit after that because I will go back to obscurity.
Ah, yes. We can all look forward to more obscurity. All right, you can look forward to Let He, Who Is Without Sin, next week. Thank you so much for watching. If this is your first one, you're coming in for this special episode, thank you very much for joining it.
Oh, and
do us a
thanks
favor.
to
Colin
Dagan. Yeah, awesome.
Unbelievable. So much fun. So we will we'll see you back here next week. Or 2 weeks. We'll see. Anyway, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye. This is Good Keith Mike 9. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM.
He had the hands of a surgeon.